DUI laws with zero tolerance, legal BAC, open container, and penalties, Part 1. Since 1998, every state has had a zero-tolerance policy that forbids anyone under the age of 21 from operating a vehicle while having any measurable level of alcohol in their system. Additionally, it is prohibited for anyone underage to own or use alcohol. If a minor was found driving while intoxicated prior to the implementation of zero-tolerance rules but after the national drinking age had been raised to 21, they might be charged with possessing or ingesting alcohol. However, if their blood alcohol concentration was below the 0.08% threshold, they would not be charged with DUI. Anyone under the age of 21 who has even a little amount of alcohol in their blood will now be considered to be driving under the influence. Zero-tolerance regulations do not differentiate between severity or circumstance. An underage driver who uses mouthwash or cough medicine to consume minute amounts of alcohol will receive the same punishment as an underage driver who has downed a six-pack of beer. Despite minor regional differences, underage drinking is generally prohibited in the United States for anybody under the age of 21. 1. Make an effort to purchase an alcoholic beverage. Even if no money has passed hands, you may be charged with trying to purchase alcohol in many states. 2. Own an alcoholic beverage in some places. If you test positive for alcohol in your blood, breath, or urine, you may be charged with internal possession of alcohol. 3. Sip alcoholic beverages. This rule has exceptions in some states, which we will examine below. There are no exclusions in Alabama, Arkansas, Idaho, New Hampshire, or West Virginia. 4. Being drunk in public. BAC with no tolerance. Underage drivers are not allowed to operate a vehicle while having any detectable level of alcohol in their systems, according to zero-tolerance legislation. This seems simple, yet the definition of a detectable level of alcohol differs slightly from state to state. The legal BAC limit for those under the age of 21 in the United States ranges from 0.00% to 0.02%. Here are a few instances. Arizona, Texas, and Utah have a 0.00% BAC limit for those under 21. 0.01% is the legal limit for people under 21 in California and New Jersey. For those under 21, Florida, New York, and Georgia have 0.02% BAC limits. Every state has a legal BAC limit that is so low that consuming even one alcoholic beverage would put you over the limit. It's critical to be aware of your state's legal drinking age for individuals under 21 so that you can prevent unintentionally exceeding it. Alcohol is found in many items, including mouthwash, cough syrup, and sweets. In states where the legal limit is set at 0.00%, consuming these goods can be sufficient to push you over the limit. Zero-tolerance violations and sanctions. Various states have different laws regarding underage drinking. In some states, driving while intoxicated is punishable just as seriously as unlawful alcohol consumption or possession. In certain states, possession and consumption have significantly less severe consequences than DUI. In all states, it is illegal to operate a vehicle while intoxicated. If you are found guilty of DUI, you could also face fines, community service requirements, a school suspension, and license revocation. You must always be aware of how the law in your state affects this situation. When you're finished with this video, make sure to check your state's driving manual for the pertinent information. For the time being, in order to give you a general notion of what to anticipate if you are found in violation of a zero-tolerance legislation, below are some state-specific instances of underage alcohol violations and penalties. DUI sanctions include a $500 fine, up to 40 hours of community service, and a maximum 60-day license suspension. Consumption and possession are punishable by a $2 to $50 2,000 fine and 8 to 12 hours of community service. DUI sanctions include a $125 fine, a 6-month license suspension, and the requirement to complete an education program for intoxicated drivers. Consumption and possession of alcohol are punishable by a $50 fine, up to 30 hours of community service, and being required to attend an alcohol awareness program. DUI laws with zero tolerance, legal BAC, open container, and penalties, Part 2. California. DUI penalties, 1-year license suspension, BAC 0.01% to 0.04%. DUI sanctions, BAC 0.05% or more, include a $100 fine, a 1-year license suspension, and a requirement to complete an alcohol education course, over 18s only. Consumption and possession, $250 $500 in fines and 24 to 48 hours of community service. DUI sanctions include a $1,000 fine, a 30-day license suspension, and a 90-day jail sentence. Having and consuming, $100 to $1,000 in fines and up to 90 days in prison. Colorado. DUI penalties include a fine of up to $100, court fees, surcharges, and a maximum 3-month license suspension. A $250 to $1,000 fine, 24 hours of community service, and up to 12 months in jail are the penalties for possession and consumption. Subsequent alcohol offenses and associated offenses. Only first-time violations are covered by the aforementioned sanctions. The penalties you face if you are found guilty of a second or third underage drinking offense will be even more severe. Keep in mind that providing alcohol to a person who is underage is illegal under the laws of the majority of states. This sometimes includes providing alcohol to guests who are under 21 during a gathering. State by state, the penalties for providing alcohol to a minor vary, but sometimes involve a $5,000 fine and a year in jail. Laws with zero tolerance, exceptions. There are over 40 states that have zero tolerance policies with exceptions that, under some situations, let a person under the age of 21 to consume or possess alcohol. Underage drinkers are allowed on private properties that don't sell alcohol, in Alaska, Colorado, Delaware, Kansas, New York, and more than 20 additional states with parental consent. Alcohol consumption by minors on private property is permitted in Louisiana, Nebraska, Nevada, New Jersey, Oklahoma, and South Carolina without parental consent. Only a few states allow minors to consume alcohol on property where it is sold as long as their parents are there and provide their permission. Additionally, many states allows anyone under the age of 21 to consume or possess alcohol for religious objectives, for example drinking wine in church. For medical reasons, when prescribed by a doctor. Purposes related to government work, for example working undercover with the police. Educational objectives, for example when studying in culinary school. Exceptions for urgent medical situations. An underage individual who reports a medical emergency involving another underage drinker is protected from alcohol consumption and possession penalties in 17 states and the District of Columbia. This law is intended to support young people in speaking up and seeking medical care without worrying about legal implications. The first person to call in a medical emergency is the only person to whom this rule applies in those cases. Charges for possession and usage would still apply to any additional minors. Open container rules. Even if no one is drinking from it, having an open container of alcohol in a car can result in harsh penalties. Open container regulations vary significantly from state to state, much like all other alcohol regulations. Remember that if the driver and/or passengers of the vehicle are under the age of 21, it is always unlawful to have an open container of alcohol in the vehicle because minors are not permitted to possess alcohol. Most states describe an open alcohol container as one that 1. Had previously been opened. 2. A faulty seal. 3. Contents that were eliminated in part. There are frequently exceptions to the open container regulations that govern where alcohol may be kept in a vehicle. Typically, it is okay to keep an open container of alcohol in the trunk or another area of the car where the driver or passengers cannot access it. A punishment of up to $1,000 could be imposed on you if you are discovered driving around with an unlicensed open container of alcohol. Few states do not prohibit passengers from having open containers. In certain jurisdictions, including Delaware, Tennessee, Connecticut, and Virginia, an adult passenger is permitted to have an open container of alcohol in their car as well as consume alcohol from it. For information on the open container policy in your area, consult the driver's manual for your state. DUI laws with zero tolerance, legal BAC, open container, and penalties, Part 3. Working with and serving alcohol. In most states, employees under the age of 21 are allowed to offer alcoholic beverages at their place of employment provided it is necessary for the performance of their duties. They are still not permitted to drink alcohol on the property where they work, though. To legally serve alcohol, a person must be 21 years or older only in Alaska, Nevada, and Utah. While all other states need a person to be either 18 or 19 years old, Maine only requires a minimum age of 17. Most states have laws that distinguish between selling unopened alcohol in a supermarket or liquor shop and serving alcoholic beverages in a restaurant or bar. Texas is one of the states that permits 16-year-olds or older to sell unopened alcohol if it is necessary for their profession. The consequences of using a fake ID. A significant offense that is sometimes charged as a felony is using a phony ID to falsely represent your age. The consequences for using a fake ID vary from state to state and are determined by the specifics of the offense. Even if you don't try to use your phony ID to purchase items that are only available to those over a certain age, you could still face penalties in every state just for having it. An ID is considered phony if it was not issued by the government and is a fake version of a real state driver's license, or other identity document. You are attempting to pass off someone else's legitimate, government-issued ID as your own, whether it is valid. A misdemeanor is typically used to prosecute fake ID crimes if they are committed for the first time and have little chance of harming anyone. In comparison to creating your own ID, borrowing someone else's is typically seen as a less serious offense. Similar to purchasing a firearm, purchasing alcohol or smokes with a phony ID is typically seen as less serious. Some states, however, do not differentiate between various degrees of fake ID crime and will punish them all very severely. Using or having a fraudulent ID could lead to 1. Time in jail. Usually, repeat offenders and more serious crimes receive this punishment. The maximum sentence for a misdemeanor fraudulent ID crime is 1 year in prison, but sentences of about 3 months are more typical. Criminal fake ID offenses carry a maximum 10-year jail sentence. 2. Fines. A punishment of up to $2,000 may be imposed for a misdemeanor forged ID crime. First-time offenders normally face fines of $500 or less in most states. If you were caught using a fraudulent ID, you might be fined up to $100,000. Remember that anyone caught using a fake ID to purchase alcohol will also be prosecuted with underage alcohol possession, a violation that carries heavy fines. It's against the law and might cost you a lot of money to purchase alcohol using a phony ID. The concept of zero tolerance is absolute. The largest danger to the health and lives of young Americans is undoubtedly underage drinking and driving. Every state has severe zero-tolerance regulations that are not meant to be disregarded, subverted, or gotten around. Almost in every state, a police officer can detain and prosecute a minor with an alcohol-related misdemeanor just by smelling alcohol on their breath. Illegal BAC levels are not necessary as proof. Associating with alcoholics or even just touching a drop of alcohol could get you into serious problems and have a lasting detrimental effect on your life. Keep in mind that zero-tolerance policies are put in place for your protection, not to ruin your time. The high rates of road fatalities in the United States have decreased significantly as a result of the strict restriction of alcohol. Limiting alcohol saves lives.